Hey, today I want to walk you through a process that I've done probably 100 times, and that is creating a kubeconfig file for a service account. Now, this is a pretty common practice if you're creating some sort of automation that needs access to your Kubernetes cluster, or if you want to give access to a user and maybe you don't want to provide OIDC access, or you don't have other external access that's going to authorize and authenticate that user, you can use a kubeconfig file. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to look at this process, look at all the steps involved, and look at how to automate it, because we only want to write this once, right? So if you like where this video is going, please drop a like. If you want to see more videos like it, especially around cloud native, please consider subscribing. And if there's other things that you want to see that I'm not covering, please feel free to add a comment. I am open to suggestions. So let's take a look at what this architecture is going to look like. So I'm over here. I've got this EKS cluster that I'm working against. And this is obviously me. I mean, look at the hard hat. I've already got access to this control plane. I'm already configured with kubectl to work against this cluster. So that part's already set up. But I've got over here a new user, and that user wants to be able to access the control plane as well. So I'm not going to give them my kubeconfig. I'm going to provision them a service account and a kubeconfig for that service account so that they can access this cluster. Maybe they're building out a CD pipeline. Maybe they just need to access it remotely, whatever the case, okay? So what I'm going to do is first set up a namespace for them. Now, this is optional. You don't have to do this. I like to categorize and group things in namespaces because it helps me keep track of things. So this is a very simple namespace template. There's really nothing to it. So I'm going to apply this with whatever their namespace is in place of this value. And that'll be the first step. So once I have that set up, I can then set up a service account. And setting up a service account is also very simple. Right? Here's what that template looks like in YAML. You have the name of the service account and you have the namespace that that service account is going to live in. Pretty straightforward. Now, there are other ways to do this, other ways to represent a user. This is just one of them. And once I have that service account identified, I can start to think about what role, what cluster role I want to bind to that user. And in this case, I'm just going to bind the cluster admin role. Think of that as God mode. They can do anything within the cluster that they want. In a production scenario, you'd probably want to configure more fine-grained access, but that would involve going into RBAC, and that's a subject for a different video. So for now, we'll just say cluster admin, that's the role I'm going to bind. And it uses a cluster role binding. Cluster role binding looks like this. It's a type of Kubernetes resource, and it matches a cluster role with whatever specific cluster role name we're using to a service account with whatever service account name we're using, okay? So those are the values that I would plug in here. And once we have that cluster role binding set up, we can apply a secret. That secret is going to have a token that represents our user, right? This will be what our user authenticates with. So that secret looks like this. It's standard Kubernetes secret, but the type, this is important, the type is service account token. So that tells Kubernetes, the control plane, what type of secret to allocate when I apply this YAML file, right? And we're going to point to the specific service account name in this annotation. That's going to associate the token with the service account. Fantastic. So once I have my service account, cluster role binding, my secret, then I can use kubectl to pull all of the information that I need to build out a kubeconfig file. Now, there's no one automated way to do this. You kind of have to build this file manually, right? Here's what it looks like. Here's the template. You have the cluster name, you have the certificate authority data. So that's how tokens are generated and signed. You have the control plane URL, where we're going to connect to, right? This is all of the connection information that we need. We have a name of a context, and that context, that's what kubectl will use when you specify what context you want to use. That's got the cluster name, the namespace we're going to be operating in, and that's the primary namespace that we're operating in. Of course, you can always pass in -n, or you can change the cluster context to point to a different namespace by default. We have the service account name as the user. right? And then down here, when we say, here's our list of users, we're going to associate that service account with a token. That's the token we generated. So that token is going to live in Kubernetes, and we're going to pull it down and store it in this kubeconfig file so that this service account can authenticate using that token. Fantastic. There's no real way to generate this with a single command. So what I've done is I wrote a bash script. It's pretty straightforward. You can probably Google dozens of other bash scripts that look just like it, but this one is mine, right? Where I pass in the namespace as the first argument and the secret name as the second argument. And then a bunch of kubectl commands get run, and they pull, using JSON path, all of the different pieces of data that I need in order to build out a kubeconfig file. And here's what that looks like down here. I'm going to echo this string with all the plugged in values into a file that's prepended with the name of the service account, .config. Pretty straightforward, right? And once we have that, then I can give that kubeconfig file to my user and they can go do whatever they want with this cluster. So let's come back into VS Code, and I've got an example set up here. This example file, it builds out all of these resources with values plugged in, right? So I'm going to create a namespace called apps. I'm going to create a service account called video SA. This is a service account that I'm creating for this video. There's a cluster role binding. And as I mentioned before, I'm binding to the cluster admin role again for demo purposes. And then I'm going to create a secret, a video SA token, a service account token that's bound to the video SA service account. Cool. So let me pull up my terminal here, and I've already got the command configured. I'm going to, like I said, I'm already pointing to the context of this EKS cluster locally. Okay, so I'm going to apply this, and it's going to stand up all these resources. Fantastic. So now that I've done that, I can run this script, right? I can run sh, no, I don't want it in there. I want it down here. Sh script apps video SA token, right? So this is the apps namespace. Video SA token is the secret. Those are the two arguments that I need to provide. And it's going to push out a new config file. Here we go. So if I open files, I can see video SA config right here. Let's open it. Let's see what it looks like. It's got all of the information I need. Now there are some values blocked out here. Those are my AWS account IDs, and I'm not showing you that for security reasons. But the rest of it you can see, and it's pretty straightforward what's going on here, right? All of the values are filled. So let's find out if it works. All right, so now we're looking at Lens, and I've already got, this is my setup against this EKS cluster, right? It's already configured in my kubeconfig. That was already there. That's how I've been working against this EKS cluster to begin with. But I'm going to add another kubeconfig. I'm going to add this one that we just created. And yes, I do wake up early to make these videos. So we're going to sync this. All right, and there it is. Fantastic. So we've got our kubeconfig set up. Let's see if we can connect. I'm going to click on it. And it connects. If I open workloads, I can see pods in all namespaces. I should be able to see all the kube system. Yep, AWS stuff. Fantastic. So that's how you can create and automate the creation of a kubeconfig. I've got this all stored in a GitHub repo that's linked in the description. If you want to try it for yourself, if you want to make a Helm chart out of it to automate it even faster, you can do that. If you like this video, please consider dropping a like. If you want to see more videos like it, especially around cloud native, please consider subscribing. And if there's other things you want to see that I'm not covering, please add a comment. I am taking suggestions and I want to know what you're interested in seeing. Thanks for watching.